Hello and welcome. So last week I made a video about the change in the Arch Linux installation, which is because the base group became a base meta package, which became a lot more minimalist than the Arch Linux base group was previously. And when the developers were discussing it on the mailing list, they had some discussions based on what the users expect this Arch base system to be. And when they discussed that, there was some discussion about who Arch is targeted for, and which brings us to the question of, is Arch Linux for me? Should I install Arch Linux on my computer? And there is a kind of age-old wisdom on that if you have to ask this question, you probably shouldn't install Arch Linux. So before you install it, you should have enough knowledge of this distribution that you will be confident that you can use it. And so if we go to, this is the Arch Linux proposal on the Arch Linux developers mailing list on this minimal system, they basically try to change the group into a meta package, which will make it easier to maintain this very base system. And basically they remove everything that is in any way not mandatory for an Arch system, like they don't have the kernel in that, because why specify one version of the kernel when the user can use a lot of different versions? Like there is Linux LTS package, there is the Linux hardened package. You can compile your own kernel, and in some cases you have to compile your own kernel. So this should not be in the basically almost the mandatory base group. Then instead there should be like a mandatory base package which only contains the most essential things. And of course there was some discussion that okay, we can remove like the text editors, because the text editor is not strictly part of the system. You don't have to have a text editor, you don't have to have the manual, like the man command installed, and you don't have to have the file systems installed, you don't have to have the LVM installed on your system. But of course, if you don't have this in the base system, so people have some certain expectations when they install an Linux distribution. And even, if you install Arch, you expect to have a working command line environment, which is, one can argue, is minimalist enough, but it's maybe not minimalist enough for the hardcore Arch users. And so there was some discussion about, who are the people using Arch, and those people who are using Arch should be well versed enough in Linux to figure out what other packages they need aside from this base package if they want a working Linux system. And of course there is always the great Arch Linux wiki with its general recommendations page and its installation guide that can guide you through the process, even though it's your first time of Arch Linux install and you are not that familiar with the things. Because that's the kind of a paradoxical thing, is that if you don't know Arch Linux, then you should not install it. But if you should not install Arch Linux, then how do you get to know Arch Linux? And of course, how you do this is what I did. You install it in a virtual machine and try things out. You trial and error. Of course, the wiki tries to help you with these things. The wiki is very well documented, so even if you know only very basic things about Linux, or like me, maybe you don't know anything about Linux, you can read up on things. It has sources, you can Google things if you don't understand something. But basically the wiki gives you a very good handle on how to work with Arch Linux, even if you don't know the system from inside out. Because, well, you have to get to know the system first. And of course this is a very good way to learn about the system, is just read the installation manual. try this installation in a virtual machine, see if it works, see how it works, see if you can do it without, Googling too much. Well, sometimes you have to follow some links and take a look at those things, or maybe you even have to listen to some explanation on YouTube what's going on. But never follow a YouTube video's instructions. Never do that, because the installation procedure can change whenever the Arch developers see fit, and they will update the installation guide on the wiki. But they won't, the people who make the videos, they won't update their videos. Just like I have a video about my Arch Linux installation experience. Don't use that as a guide. You can, listen to it and listen to the explanations, but you should follow the guide on the wiki when it comes to installing your system. And so this is a very good installation guide, and there are some people who say that in the Linux community, who say like, oh, Arch users, they are so proud of themselves, but all they can do is basically they can read the instructions and follow these commands. Well, they are so proud because they don't need a graphical installer to do these things for them, but they themselves know nothing because they are also just following the commands. Well, of course, if you just blindly follow their commands, that would be true, but if you really want to use Arch Linux, then you should at least put in the effort of understanding what each command does by reading on the wiki. And which comes to our next point, brings us to the next point, which is why you choose Arch. There is a forum topic that is titled "Why You Choose Arch," and there is this very recent comment on it, which is it's a perfect summation of what are the advantages of Arch Linux. It can be tiny and highly optimized, or bloated like a bugger. It gives you, the user, the control, and there are no dependencies to be found with the amazing Pac-Man. It does exactly what you tell it to do. Think twice and shoot once, then make sure you hit the mark. And of course, there is like most of the software come just the way the software developers do make them. The distribution does not customize them or apply distro specific patches. So if anything goes wrong, it's very easy for you to file a bug report for the original developers, because if something is wrong with the software, there is a high chance that it's not the packaging that's screwed up, it's the software itself that's buggy. And you have the choice to go the bleeding edge with the testing repos. You can choose packages that are known to be rock solid, like XFCE. And you can call it your own. There are a lot of Arch Linux systems, but every Arch Linux system is different because it's all are tailored to the user's needs. So you can just tailor the system to what you need. And this comes with some trial and error, which means that you have to put in some time and some effort to get to know what you should do. And of course, you can also read up on the Should I Go Arch forum page, which will give some very interesting opinions on should you go Arch or not. Sometimes, opposing views, which is very good. It's good to see opposing views. Like this user says that don't use Arch if you still have Microsoft in your memory. Why though? I don't agree. Don't use Arch in your first month of Linux. Oh, I did that. Use Linux only for about 5 years, then think about Arch. 5 years? No way. Yeah. And the other user replies that using any one of the popular Linuxes for 5 years would definitely have driven me away from Linux entirely. And this is another opinion. You can decide. Of course, if Arch fits your needs or not, that's totally dependent on you. So here I just rambled on a little about, how well you should know Arch before you start using it. You won't know Arch well enough if you don't use it beforehand. That's the paradox. That's why you need a virtual machine, practice the installation in a virtual machine. See if you can find those packages like a desktop environment that makes you feel at home. And you don't need to screw around with the hardware issues in a virtual machine. Then you can copy your virtual machine to a pen drive, USB stick, and boot that one to see if your hardware fits well with Arch Linux, if you can install the proper drivers to run your system well. And then you can decide to install it on your main production machine, or you can decide not installing it. So I think that is true, that Arch Linux is not aimed at people who just want to use their computer and they just want some predefined workflow to be put on their screen that they can just, click and move around and do the stuff as soon as they install the system. Arch Linux is for the adventurous people, the people who want to learn, and the people who have some time managing the system, because you should update it at least once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, but you should definitely update once a month, I think. And you should read the forums to see if there are any updates that can screw your system up, like the budgie update screwed up a few weeks ago, and be prepared for that. You should have your backup strategy or know how to downgrade your system in case anything breaks. You should be prepared for anything, and you should read and read. So before you go full Arch on your production machine, you should be familiar with at least the general recommendations page and read up on package management, booting, graphical user interfaces, and some multimedia stuff. You should know at least where to look up these things, and just read a little about systemd, because man, if you have any problems, you will have to be able to go through the journals of systemd and figure out what's going on from that. So in conclusion, let's conclude this, and let's say that Arch Linux is definitely not for everyone. I wouldn't say it's not for the newbies. You can go Arch Linux as a newbie, but you have to be able to put in the time, you have to be able to put in the effort, and you have to have the kind of adventurous spirit, you have to have the kind of wish to learn, wish to study, wish to understand things more and more, and have the affinity to keep your knowledge up to date, because your packages will be up to date. Pacman will make sure that your packages will be up to date, but what's inside your head, that's your job to make sure that that's up to date. And well, just bookmark the Arch Wiki, bookmark the Arch forums, and spend some time reading it. And I will help you, because in the next videos I will be a little more technical. This is a very long rant. I will go do some technical videos. I will go through the Arch Linux installation manual. I will read it for you. I will explain it to you. I will go into the details that were difficult for me when I first read it. I will not give you a tutorial on how to install Arch Linux, because that won't help you. What will help you is that, maybe you don't have the time to read it, but you have the time to listen to it on the bus. And also I want you to have that opportunity to listen to this as I talk about it, and maybe that will be useful for you. And well, that's it for this video. I hope to see you in the next one. Have a nice day. Bye bye.